Well, it's another week, it's another AD and the MC. Welcome to you, I'm Shura Taft, and this is AD, Angry Dad Mark Orville, and we've made it a family occasion again. We welcome Dylan Orville.
Thanks for having me.
We invited Sharon, by the way.
She has non-committal so far.
She said she was catching up with the guy, Brian?
Oh, she's only human, I suppose.
I don't know who Brian, do you know who Brian is?
No, I'll find out tonight. I'll find out tonight, don't worry.
She was busy.
I'm not allowed to tell him, so.
But Dylan, great to have you with us. We should mention to you guys out there, mate, keep your comments coming in. Contact@angrydad.com.au. You can catch us on the social media as well, @AD and the MC. But we had your brother on a couple of weeks ago, and it was a great chat because it got a real insight into growing up under the great man. And I want to start with this because Mitchell was at pains to say you copped it worse of anyone.
I think that's pretty standard across firstborn in families, I'd assume. You know, they got to set the precedent somewhere and try and work it out. So I definitely copped it the most.
Yep.
Obviously Mitchell's second, and then Hannah's got what I would call
it's a
free
blessed
rein.
life. Yeah, blessed life.
Pretty cruisy ride.
Yeah, nothing to answer to, nothing to do.
No accountability.
But AD says because she's applied herself, she's worked hard at school, she's a good girl. See it that way?
Nah. I think if I had have been given some flexibility and free rein, I might have done the same thing. But you know what happens when they tell you to do one thing, you want to do the other.
You know, excuses.
He did say though he thought he was a bit strict. He said he was a bit strict with you.
A bit.
Well, tell us your memories of growing up.
The good ones, or there's not many? Just, I don't know. I don't remember Hannah ever being grounded or anything.
He's talking about you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was grounded probably once a week minimum, which would make me sound like a bit of a naughty kid, but I wouldn't have thought I was. It was pretty... I mean, I'd come home on a Friday or a Saturday and, you know, you'd finish basketball and you're playing with all your mates and it would be like, oh, can I go back to Jack's house? And Dad'd be like, no. Why? You're just not.
That's fair enough.
And we'd be going home...
That's fair enough.
We'd be going home to do nothing. There was absolutely no reason why I couldn't, but it was just no.
He hadn't built that trust yet.
I was 12.
You got to earn it. You got to earn it.
No wonder these kids want to prank you, mate.
No, he's got to earn it, mate. Like, at the end of the day, there would have been a valid reason. I can't remember the specifics of that occasion.
You
he was a prick of a kid, basically.
Then you sneak off and you go and ask Mum, and it's like, Mum said yes, and then
That's the argument. But I want to start with, for those who don't know, we've talked about this. AD played professional footy at Collingwood.
He likes to tell everyone about that.
What are your memories of your 7 games? What are your memories of growing up with a dad who's playing VFL in that system? Because it's interesting to talk about in terms of your path as well.
Oh, look, it was tough. He certainly wasn't easy on me as a junior, and I was a very late sort of developer and blossomer, and there was a very high expectation, pretty much just from him, really.
But I mean, in terms of being a kid, when you were just a kid, so before you started playing footy,
before I started playing,
when you were going to watch him play or training,
I didn't get to see him play. Nah, he retired in 91. I was born in 93.
Yeah, he didn't get to see. I mean, it's a shame, isn't it? Imagine him having those memories.
We're talking about punishments. So most of my punishments were sitting there having to watch all the
VRC
tapes.
Yeah. Mate, they wouldn't have seen one tape. Plus, they didn't have. The only time I played senior footy, a few games, the 6 in 87, ABC got the TV rights.
Right.
Can you believe it? How lucky am I? They're in the bin. They would have been put straight in the bin. Yeah.
Well, I guess the good thing is because if you had been there when your old man was playing, you would have seen a lot of the inside of the medical room, which I heard was beautiful.
I got to see that anyway. I made my own ways with that.
But so cut forward to when you're making your way in junior footy. So it's tough. You've got an old man who obviously has expectations. What's the sort of vibe for you?
Well, most Sundays I'd end up going home with a friend because
after the game,
I wouldn't get in the car with him. It was an absolute explosion of abuse generally.
When you played well, I didn't abuse you, so that was very rare.
I never got applauded. I just didn't get abused. That was the difference. That was a win. That was a win. I knew if I played a shit game that I was going absolutely nowhere near him after the game.
Yeah.
Mum would sneak $5 into my hand. I'd go get a hot dog and I'd get in the car with one of the other guys and go home with them. Just.
There you go. I mean, I knew he wanted to play
it was a scary thought.
At elite level, mate, so I'm trying to actually condition him for it.
When did you genuinely think he could play?
He was a late bloomer, to be honest. Although his skills were always really good as a young kid in terms of technique. And if you've got that, if that's something that's natural to you, you've got a really good base to work on. But it wasn't until he's probably 15 to 16, a couple of grand finals, the last sort of year of really junior footy before you then go into the third, seconds or seniors at Caulfield. He's just started to show some ability in terms of, I think he backed himself body-wise because he was really skinny. but he found out that if you took a contested mark in a pack, it didn't actually hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you had the natural skill and ability to do it. And then, he did stand out. Not constantly throughout a game, because I don't think his work effort was up there, but that's something you can work on if you got the base. But then, tragedy with the ACL.
But do you look at it now and go, like, honestly looking back, you've talked about your parenting being maybe slightly strict. Do you look and go, for those out there who might have a kid they think could be gifted, is it worth pushing or letting them find?
No, you've got to push, mate. You've got to be cruel to be kind. Like, at the end of the day, okay, the thing that determines it from my perspective is if you know that kid, doesn't matter what sport it is, if you know they have, like, their dream is to actually deliver their full potential in any chosen sport, you've got to push them, because it doesn't come naturally for many of them. Some it does. Dylan, you had to push.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're living his dream or your dream?
No, mine. But looking back, it was you do appreciate that. At the time, it was tough.
Yeah.
But definitely, if I didn't get pushed as hard as I did, I wouldn't have got
What
where
was
I
he
got.
doing? Was he making you do extra training? Was he making?
No,
you
it was just yelling out while I was playing. Like leading up to a contest, or start fucking running, or whatever it was. It was just
things that should.
It was honest and pretty tough feedback, whether it was during the game yelling out in front of everyone, or quarter time, half time, post game.
But you reckon that would affect? Like, did you?
Yeah,
help you?
No,
you could hear it. Don't worry.
That's what I mean.
There was times where it did. It certainly did. Where I was thinking I'm not going to go. You'd hear him yell out, and I'd just be like, I've got to go, or I'm going to get sprayed after the game.
Right.
So you'd go. You might just make the contest, or
so validated what I was saying was right. If you put that effort, you want to do it rather than being forced to do it.
Isn't there a way to, like, you take him aside, you go, you've got God-given skills. This is what you need to do, rather than yelling over the fence and your teammates are going, Mark's
but it's like last week when we talked about discipline. You tell a kid no, then you say no, so you can tell them once, and if that sinks in and then they apply it, fine. But it took a while for Dylan to get it, the fact that, it's not easy, and when you're tired and you've got to work harder and push, harder.
It was a mental thing for me, definitely.
Yeah,
sport, footy, everything was always a mental battle for me.
And for me, it was about seeing something go to waste. And it was never a given that he'd get drafted until the later years it looked like he was a real chance, right? But it was about saying, again, for me, this whole philosophy on life is disappointment versus regret.
Yeah.
Everyone's got disappointment, but if you actually can live with regret, because it's a massive poison, regret, it really is, then you know what? I'm trying to do him a favour to avoid any regret in his life. And you'll never get rid of all of it, right? But in this instance here, if you've got natural ability, and I could see as a kid that he needed to be pushed to get the best out of himself, I'm going to do it. Otherwise, he would have had regrets.
Can I counteract that with, because I played a bit of footy when I was younger, and I played at the Oakley Charge with some guys, some who went on to get drafted and some who didn't. But in particular, there was one guy who was a ruckman. He was a star, and every year he was really, really, going towards being drafted. But his old man yelled over you could tell he was almost scared of his old man a bit. Yelled over the fence, a lot of that sort of stuff. And to be honest with you, he ended up giving up footy
Because of that.
Yeah. And I've seen him since. I've asked him about it. He said, I just couldn't take it anymore. The old man just got too far. So I understand what you're saying, and you came from the professional background and you knew it. But it can go the other way. Like, would you do that if your son shows signs? Are you going to be like, right, I've got to push him here?
I think so. I think you got to pick your times and ages. Like, my girlfriend has a 7-year-old stepson, so I go and watch him play footy and basketball now. So it's under 8s, right? I don't say boo, because they're miles too young.
Yep.
But I'll give him feedback every now and then. Sometimes at training when they're stuffing around, and be like, I'm not gonna drive you to training if you're gonna stuff around.
Yeah.
Or they'll be doing some suicides and he'll be last. I'm like, you're not the slowest kid in that team. It's not about where you come or what you do, but were you trying your hardest when you were running? Because the coach yelled at you and you had to. The whole team had to do it again.
Yeah.
So it's about, are you trying? So I think at the end of the day, that's what it come down to. Every time Dad was getting into me, it was more because it was effort based. I wasn't trying. If you didn't yell out, I probably wouldn't have, pushed
I know
you
you
that
wouldn't.
content.
He wouldn't.
Exactly.
He wouldn't. Again, different kids need different motivations, right? And a level. Well, talk to Bucks. Like, Bucks will admit it. His old man was so hard on him, but clearly his old man knew that Bucks had a dream, and his old man knew that Bucks had the absolute talent and ability to, give himself the maximum chance of delivering on it. So he was as hard as shit, and it would have killed Bucks at the time. I'm tipping. Well, he said it. But now, I mean, you look back over his career, it all paid off for him.
So let's cut forward to when you started to look like you could be drafted. So clubs are coming to talk to you and whatnot. So what was the process with Adelaide, and when did you know you were going to be drafted?
Well, I guess I really didn't. So my first sort of inkling was when I was playing bottom age, Oakley. I played the under-17s Metro squad, and then I was potentially going to be playing in the AIS squad.
Yep.
And that's when I did my ACL. So they sort of come to me and said that they're not going to pick me in that now because I'm out for 12 months, so they'd rather get someone who can do all the training and play all the games, which was fair enough. So that was pretty devastating at the time. And then I just got back in time for the under-18s Vic Metro stuff, but I hadn't played a game yet, so I trained. I didn't play any of those games either because I hadn't played a game at all yet for that 12 months. And I went through. I waited an extra probably 3 weeks. It was school holidays when I sort of was right to start playing, but instead of going straight back into TAC Cup, we thought it'd be better to go back through the APS school footy. So I waited for school holidays to be done. I think I played 2 games with school, and then the last 4 or so with Oakley. I ended up having a bad car crash the week before finals, and I pulled out because I had bad whiplash, sore back. I probably could have played in the end, but I did the right thing because I was pretty sore, and it ended up probably being to the detriment because I was on the outer.
In then,
I ended up getting back in, played all the finals, and I was dropped from the grand final. They wanted to play an extra backman, but they ended up swinging a backman
tough.
forward and brought in a different backman, so it sort of made no sense when they could have just dropped a backman for a different back. Anyway, that was even tougher.
I took that harder than Dylan.
Yeah,
Sure.
right.
I got the call. I was in a taxi coming back from Sydney from work, and no names, but I thought that's weird for this person to ring me. So I answered it, and he said, "Were you home tonight?" And I said, "Yeah. What's the reason for wanting to visit?" I just want to talk you through. We're not going to play Dylan. We've dropped him. And I said, "You're not fucking welcome then. You're not coming around." Drop the fucking phone. Now, I talked to him for 5 minutes before I actually said that. I said, "Pointless. Don't come around, blow wind up his ass, and you fucking dropped him, mate. Simple as that."
Yeah, right.
And it was really tough. I had to explain it to Dylan when I got home.
Oh, so you told him?
Yeah. I said, "Because you're not welcome. You're not coming around. Simple as that. End of story. Don't give a fuck."
Didn't really work out, and the guy they brought in had, I think, 5 or 6 goals kicked on him in
They
the
got done.
last.
Yeah, right.
But it's like he's had some kicks in the guts, but it's character building.
Yeah. But so, and then when did you get the indication that you might get picked up by Adelaide?
So I never actually. I spoke to probably 6 or 7 clubs leading up to it. Adelaide obviously showed interest, but I was supposed to be taken by Brisbane. And I don't, as you know how all that sort of stuff happens, and someone was free, the pick they thought they were going to take me, and someone was free that they didn't think was going to be free, so they took, I can't remember who it was now, they took them, and then Brisbane were going to take me with their next one. Again, this is all conspiracy, you know what I mean? But then Adelaide had a pick before that, and so they ended up taking me, I can't remember what it was now, but
it's a bit of a shock.
The rookie. I was overwhelmed and sort of honoured and whatever, but it was like I was packed up and living in Adelaide within 24 hours.
What do you remember that? Was it a sense of pride? Were you
Yeah,
shocked?
no, I was wrapped because at the end of the day, he'd had a couple of kicks in the guts, and this was a reward for effort, right? But then really, that wasn't the end of it, it was the start of it. So it was really, it was an exciting moment. You see when kids get drafted, quickly you invite a few people around, have a few drinks and celebrate. But yeah, he was gone the next day.
Wow.
So you don't have a lot of time to think about it. It's then a matter of recognising you're in the system. It all starts now, and it's up to you. You look for that opportunity then.
Do you need to change your style now? You've yelled over the fence his whole career. Now he's going to AFL. Is it time to let the people who know do their thing? And you step back?
Mate, I didn't at Oakley. I didn't the Chargers.
Yeah, stopped under 16.
Yeah, I was not vocal there.
Right.
Yeah, stopped under.
They don't let you anyway. But I was sort of half smart enough to know that it's not the environment to be.
There's
yelling
only just
out.
under AFL. There's lots of development coaches. There's
Of
plenty
course,
going.
I'm not the expert there. They've got lots of people that are going to question effort if you're not going to be put the effort in. Because it's simple. You don't put effort in, you don't get a game.
Yes.
Right? Under 16 is different. You have a smaller pool of talent. You get played anyway, regardless of the effort in most cases. And
local clubs, you've got just enough kids to normally fill a team.
Okay. So what year is this? You're at the Adelaide Football Club in
2011, 2012, I think it was.
And what's your sort of overriding memory of it all in terms of the professional environment that you?
I was certainly an eye opener and an extremely good experience, but I wouldn't have thought my experience was what I was after there. I spent 2 years, pretty much 2 years in rehab, medical rooms, surgeries.
What was the main injury?
Well, I had an ACL, and then I had another knee operation, which I was forced to play through for 3 or 4 weeks, unwillingly, which was not ideal. I was in quite an amount of pain, and they refused to let me get a scan. I was getting absolutely smashed in game reviews where I literally couldn't move. I was in excruciating pain. I ended up going in. I just said, I'm either going to book myself in for a scan on Tuesday, or you can do it. And I ended up getting in, and I had 50% of my cartilage floating around in my knee. So I was in for surgery the next day.
How did you feel about that, knowing that the club had let that happen?
It's a disgrace, to be honest. You know, and that's not pot shot in one specific club. Clearly, in this instance, it is. But, you know, at the end of the day, they've got to listen to their people. They know their bodies better than anyone.
Yeah.
So if you've got an issue, you're in a professional environment, you've got to listen to them. I think they do more now these days, even though it's only 6-7 years on. But it's a disgrace. And again, this isn't about me, but, you know, the same happened with me. I played on my foot with basically a broken foot for 2 years before all of a sudden they took notice that there was something wrong, and lo and behold, got a stress fracture, which is what Hogan's got now. They detect that they're off. I had bloody needles before training just to get through because it was a mental thing and it was part of recovery and it's ligament issue. Well, seriously?
I mean, you'd expect that a little bit in the 80s and early 90s because it was a different era, but you wouldn't expect to hear that in 2011. I know there's a lot of talk about professional, it's not just in football, lots of sports where they play through things or they're forced to play through. And I think
had the experience. That was the hard thing as well. So initially when you go into the system and you sort of told to tell the medical staff, they got to be aware of everything. And as you get older and you spend more time, you start to learn there's things that you tell them about and there's things that you don't, because you just don't need it. I mean, if you've got a corky on the weekend and you can push through it, you go out and you just push through it. But I was sort of told, you know, you just think you got to tell them everything. So you tell them you got a corky, and you don't train on the Monday, Tuesday, whereas, you know, you would have been better off just training. You get through it. And then because I was having so many issues and I was always in the medical room, it was like, what's next? What now? So it started to, there was probably a lot of people questioning my resilience and mental toughness. And there was certainly times where I didn't need to make anyone aware of it. But then it got to stages where there were things that were pretty serious. And it was like, oh, you'll be right. It was inflammation of the knee. That's all it was. You'll be fine.
But it compounds, because if you've got an injury here and you're trying to manage it, you're then like load bearing on the other leg a little bit more. You're going to do something.
Well, that's what happened. I ended up doing my hamstring, 15 centimetre tear in my other hamstring. And then I did another 15 centimetre tear in the other hamstring. And then I've probably done about 12 times since that.
Other than that, his body's in good shape.
So we've ridden the wave of now you've been drafted, you're at the club. Now, the other side of it, when it's time to like leave, when did Adelaide sit you down and go, that's it? Or? That was
in, well, I was actually, I don't know. I was sort of told I was going to be there for 3 years.
Yeah.
They knew I was late mature, late developer, and I was going to take time, and I had injuries and whatever. And I got a second year, and the third year didn't happen. To look back, and it is what it is. And my talent and ability far outweighed what I showcased. And there comes a time where you got to
cut your losses.
Exactly. And I was, as much as it hurt, because the initial plan was 3 years. Did I show them enough to validate that? No, and it hurt, and it is what it is. And I sort of look back, going, now if I spent another 12 months on that list, it was another 12 months of pain, mental pain. Like it was. He was a list clogger.
Did you take it on though? Did you take that on for him?
I did.
You see in him, he's not living his dream that he wants to live.
I did, and you know why I did? And the AFL got a massive issue here, and they can kid themselves all they like. They might have a bank account, and there's a line item next to that says player welfare, and there's $20 million in it or whatever. They have got no idea about the bow wave of mental illness and issues to do with players that come into the system, go out of the system. And I saw it firsthand. We're on a plane, about to get on a plane in LA, and Sharon took a call from Dylan, and he was in tears and upset because he was thinking at that point he was having a third year. We're in LA, mate. 15 years on a plane, 15 hours on a plane, right? We're no contact, and we're about to go. And they told him that pack your bags, you're going. This is at the end of the season, right? So he lived with Brad Crouch. So there's two of them in this house. Brad had already packed up and gone home. So they call you in, they give you that news, and then they say, piss off because we've got another meeting with someone else. Send him home to a house. They're on their own, in tears. Their life's in turmoil. Yeah. That's not welfare.
No, it's not.
That's a disgrace. It's a dead set disgrace. And you know what? I never took the issue up with them because I couldn't be bothered and it was going to be falling on deaf ears. But they're classic examples. Now, do they still happen now? I would friggin' hope not. But at the same time, you see the players with the issues in terms of managing the system even when they're in it, let alone managing it when they're no longer in it and they're now out of it.
There's zero follow-up post.
It's disgraceful.
Post the listing, it's you sit around a table with 5 people, and it's generally your post-season review. I actually had that, and they said they weren't sure what they were going to do. I left knowing damn well that it was very, very unlikely, and then I got called in for a second meeting not long after that. And it was pretty much, yeah, look, we're not going to renew your contract. Well, you're not playing AFL anymore, so you may as well go and enjoy. Why don't you just go on a holiday and enjoy yourself? And that
did he deserve another year? No, depends, right? But by and large, no. In terms of their investment in him, did they get anything out of it? No. Yeah. Regardless of whether they gave him a third year or a second year, it's how you manage it. You've got a 20-year-old kid.
Yeah, you left.
He goes back to a home on his own. His parents are in LA. It doesn't matter if we're in Melbourne. Even you're still a phone, like a flight away. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, he thinks his world's come to an end. So you try convincing a kid at 20 that doesn't matter. Like, you know what, you've had a go, you've got no regrets. And, you know, one door closes, another door opens. They don't want to hear that shit.
It chews up and spits out some pretty talented kids, doesn't it? And you've seen it firsthand. How do you feel about at the moment with the way mental health is going with football? You probably sit there and understand it. Because a lot of people are like, oh, all these footballers are going, I've got a mental health issue, like Tom Boyd or Jesse Hogan or whoever you go. Well, you must understand that.
I personally had to seek professional help for a good couple of years post-footy. So I completely understand
it. And who pays that?
Yeah, you.
So do. And they've got all this money and they come out and they go, we're addressing it, weren't it? Pig's ass, mate. They've got no idea.
I think it's pretty sad that people don't feel comfortable coming out and identifying it. But I feel like there's a lot of pressure on the player if they come out and identify that they've got a weakness. Well, what does that say to the people who are selecting the teams on a Friday? If someone's mentally weak or not up to it, they're not going to play him. Now, at the same time, they're probably not fit to play, and that's fair enough. But there's no real confidence in how it's going to be managed. Or that's personally how I think
that mental side it shouldn't. This is what I think is starting to happen. It shouldn't be looked at as weakness. It's not about that you're not weak. You're not strong enough to go out there and play. There's something that's happening that's stopping you, or you've got issues outside of footy. Yours is a bit different after you finish. There's lots of guys who get delisted who then have to deal with the fact that you're now at 20 spat back into the real world.
I was dealing with it throughout as well, though. I mean, rehab. Anyone who's been through. I mean, you ask someone like Alex Johnson or Alex Woodward or any of these guys who Daniel Menzel. Rehab is a dark, dingy hole.
Because you're looking out a window with all these guys having a great time playing
especially, footy. And I was even more unlucky in a sense that we went through a 2-year period where there wasn't a shitload of injuries at Adelaide. I was
on your own.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10 I was by myself.
Wow.
Or dealing with a long-term injury, you're doing your long-term rehab, so you're in a whole different environment, or you're coming in and you've got to do all your training before team meetings start. So your training is done before the team even gets there half the time. It was you almost felt like you were getting punished like that. That's how it felt at times. You felt you were
it's a lonely place. You're getting in any sport, I suppose. But we're talking specifically AFL. I can't sort of talk about others because I've never played any other sport. But it's like it's not going to get any easier or any better. But what they do and how they do it now,
mental health is a massive
But that's the question then. You've both been through this. You've both been at the top level of sport, but you haven't achieved your dreams. You have a son, or your missus has a son. You have your own in the future. Like, do you actually recommend they do this? Like, the fact is, you never got to experience the highs.
It's funny because I've been asked before. If you got offered an AFL contract tomorrow, would you take it? And there's absolutely no way I would. Now, if I knew that I had a body that would withstand the demands of AFL footy, yeah, because I can see that the highs are certainly worth it. But when there's no one really there to support you at the lows, I mean, you're sort of irrelevant at a football club unless you're in the best 22 and you're playing good footy, or you're on the fringe and you're playing good footy and you just can't crack it. You know, there's someone always there going, mate, keep going, because it's all it is, you know, one injury or 2 losses and you're in, sort of thing. But when you're not there, you're just another number. That's sort of how it is, and that's the harsh reality. And I'm not saying that you should be given the same attention that the best 22 should, but if they're going to ride the highs with you, there needs to be someone there that will help you through the lows, because...
And they say there is. And this isn't one club. This isn't about a specific club. I think this is the whole industry. And
I'm not speaking about my experience. I'm saying I just feel like... And it's not even necessarily just footy. I mean, through all workplaces and industries, there's issues where...
I think the conventional workforce does a hell of a lot better than sporting clubs.
Yeah.
And I think that's just because sporting clubs
Public
can be picky enough to choose to do when they want to do things versus when they have to do things, etc. And I say this not because I'm bitter, because specifically about me or Dylan, I'm 50, I've been over it for 20 years, but it's because these places can't get better unless they actually get feedback and take the feedback on board from real situations or real examples. Yeah. They can kid themselves and sit around boardrooms and pretend they've got processes and procedures in place and money to drive it and underpin it. But it's fucking token, sure. Unless you're dealing with specific situations and you're seeing them through and you know that that's worked and then you apply it, it'll never get better. And they do, and we're probably a little bit lucky that, you know, we talk to a lot of people, we know a lot of people, real life examples, and I'm not going to pop people here in terms of specifics of individuals, but I know so many that have been fucked over and they're bitter about it and they're left to go on and deal with it themselves.
Yeah.
And it's actually sad because they're young kids. And, you know, not all of them are strong enough and resilient enough to pick themselves up. Not all of them can go on and then play VFL, create a new sort of group of friends, right? Earn a few bucks and settle back into life.
Did you feel at all when you entered the system that they were readying you for A, the possibility of playing a long career, or B, the possibility that the career would be over in a year or two? Was there any sort of sit down and go, boys, you're great players, this is your future. This might not happen for you, by the way, make sure you study. Or, you know what I mean? Was there any of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we did a sports Cert 2 in sport. There was something we had to do. All the first to third year players had certain commitments. We weren't necessarily forced to go to uni, but there was things, but it was never really readying you for life after footy. But it wasn't even, that's not really what the issue was. It was more just that support and help when you go through the lows. Yeah. There's nothing
shit
there.
Is about box ticking.
Yeah.
Do you actually talk to the people about applying themselves and giving them an interest outside of football, i.e. study? Yes, we do. We talk to them and they, well, good, so we're managing it. Big difference, mate, between taking those that are actually out of the system for whatever reason, right? And let's be honest, some people just aren't cut out to make it. They try, whatever, and go,
they still need help.
There's nothing, mate. There's just absolutely, again...
I think that's what it is. Like, I mean, I don't at all think that I should have been given any more of a chance than I did, and I don't think I validated that at all, and I'm content with that. But at the same time, no matter how content you are with the fact that you don't deserve it, it doesn't make it easy.
Would have helped, yeah.
You still need some help and guidance post footy, because the football and the real world are two completely different things, and you're not ready for it. You're not, unless you've been in the system for 8 years and you've had a bit of a career, or you've actually studied for 8 years and you do have something ready to go to. Like I left school and went straight to that, so I didn't go to uni.
Yeah.
There's no way. There was no way I wanted to waste 1 or 2 days a week going to uni while I was trying to pursue a football career.
Yeah.
Now, once you're an established player and you've got the flexibility and downtime, and you know there's not as much to work on, then fair enough. If I had a day off during the week, I was, well, not even necessarily doing training. I was more trying to get my body right. So, I mean,
you come out of 20, and 20 is not that young, not that old to start something.
Well, your balls haven't dropped, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. You know, we've got to go on a set, but just quickly touching on the real world, you wouldn't have known that at the footy club starting this little bit of flicking your old man's ear, and then start what's come next, which is
exactly. You know, well, I mean, and that was completely unintentional. I had jobs right through that. Initially, I mean, at the moment we're pursuing a few things that meant I had to resign, but I ended up going straight back and getting a job with Bauer Media doing sales. So I was fortunate enough that a position come up and I could do that, and I went to Collingwood and tried VFL, and same thing, I was just injured the whole time. I didn't play one game at any level for the whole.
The unfortunate thing, the way I
months.
see it, is they consult with players that have actually half succeeded in terms of feedback on the processes. Are they working, right? So anyone that's been in the system 5 or 6 years that's pretty good, because the average is about 4.5 years or whatever. So they consult with them. Who they should be consulting with are players that actually got there, may have played a game, may not have played a game, but have been in it for 1 minute, and then what's happened since. Then you get real feedback. Then you get to see the real issues. Then you can put some robust and proper fixes in place. If you don't do that, you're kidding yourself. It's token. Again, they got the money and they say they're investing in it, but it's bullshit. And again, you know what? That's just not me sitting here thinking it because it's my opinion. There's so many examples of it. And again, I'm not going to quote people, but I've had enough discussions with people because I'm passionate about it. And AFL, you head out of your ass and do something real about it, because there's a bow wave coming, and the execs and all that these days, I don't give a fuck what they say, but they'll have moved on. They might not have to confront it, but you're dealing with young men and young kids here. You could fix it, but you've got to have the desire to fix it. So maybe you balance that investment and time with AFLW and other things that are going on with real player welfare issues. That's why I say it.
Well, either way, mate, we really appreciate you coming on and being open about your experiences. And I have to say, I think there's a big part of it that's quite funny, the sort of circle of life thing where you've gone from being, you know, the experience of him over the fence, and now you've given it back to him
on the other side.
Videos. Must feel good.
Yeah, it does. He deserves it. It was a long time coming.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks,
like
mate. Thanks, well done, mate. Thank you.
Good luck with everything going. I know you got your banter apps going well.
Yep. So we're just about to release our second build, which has got quite a lot of enhancements and functionality for usability. So this is
check that out.
Exciting
BANTA
times.
is the app.
Yep. Oh, that's Gillen. He wants to meet me later.
Gill's already on the phone. Anyway, thanks for coming on. Another all family member on AD and the MC. As I said at the start of the show, remember, contact at angrydad.com.au or hit us up on various forms of social media. Either way, good again, mate.
Good to see you. Let's go and have a hit of golf soon.
Don't know about that. See you next week.